It's kind of a weird background. Namaste, guys. ChristianRLong, life enhancement consultant, giving you a big and beautiful shout out on this Monday. Forgetting what day it is. This Monday evening. It's about 6 o'clock, almost 6 o'clock p.m. here in Lehi, Utah. It's my last day here, spending time with a friend and a client, making some miracles happen, producing some earth-shattering results with people near and far. David, namaste. It's been forever since I've seen you on a stream. Shelly, namaste. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And today is the second most powerful day of the entire year, spiritually speaking. So today is the full moon of Gemini. So if you guys remember from a month ago, we were talking about the Wesak festival, or the Wesak full moon, or the full moon of Taurus, which basically coincides with the birth, the enlightenment, and the passing of Lord Buddha. Denise, namaste. So it's, energetically speaking, a very, 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 very powerful day that if you meditate at the peak of the full moon of Wesak, it's equivalent to meditating every single day for about 3 to 4 weeks of how much energy is generated. So the three most powerful full moons of the entire year is the full moon of Aries, then the full moon of Taurus, and then the full moon of Gemini. The full moon of Aries prepares the earth to be blessed. The full moon of Taurus receives the energy of the blessing. So Mother Earth receives the energy of the blessing. And then the third full moon, which this is the third full moon, the full moon of Gemini, the second most powerful full moon of the three full moons, it's where all those energies are distributed around the world to bless, heal, and increase the overall vibration of Mother Earth. And because we are connected to Mother Earth, as Mother Earth evolves, we as the human soul also evolve. We also raise our vibration. So it's super, super powerful and very, very important. Now, Fulguni, namaste. It's been a long time since I've seen you on a live stream. Used to be on all the live streams about 2 years ago. So it's good to have you on a live stream. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're living the dream. And I just had a session. Gabriel, namaste. Just had a session with a client. And it was earth-shattering. It was profound. It was amazing. It was the perfect storm of all these good things to come in for this person to have such a shift, and a mental and emotional shift for their life. But here's the catch. And by the way, the fact that it's at the second most powerful full moon of the entire year, that's amazing, right? That's a great opportunity, because the more energy that's available, the faster things can happen, the faster things that can materialize, the faster things that can move forward, because spiritual energy is an accelerant. It's a fertilizer for what's good within us and the not so good within us, right? But, you can dig a hole with a little tiny shovel, or you can dig a hole with a backhoe, a gigantic backhoe, right? Same thing is happening. A hole is being dug, but one, you get a bigger instrument or a bigger tool to do the job. So doing these kinds of things around a full moon makes it much, much easier and much more effective. So that's one aspect as to why this was an earth-shattering healing for this client. But the other thing is, in my opinion, is more important, is this isn't the first and only healing this client has received over the past 3 years of us working together. This is probably, maybe the 40th or 50th healing that this person has received over a 3-year period. Why is that important? Because we make the assumption that one healing is going to shift everything and anything in our lives to move us forward. Now, yes, there are miraculous healings. Miraculous healings happen on a consistent and persistent basis. Somebody comes in with a migraine headache. You do 30 minutes of pranic healing, the migraine headache is gone with no touch. That's miraculous. Somebody comes in with a relationship problem, and they're filled with so much grief, so much shame, so much guilt. 30-minute healing, grief is gone, shame is gone, guilt is gone. That's a miraculous healing. But we are layers of an onion. We are very complex, And as we remove one layer, there's other sub-layers that also need to be removed in order for people to get to the core issue as to why they're not able to move their lives forward. One of my attributes that has allowed me to make huge quantum leaps in my personal and spiritual growth and development is because A, I had very good healers working with me and very good coaches working with me, and two, I was determined no matter what to get the answer. So what do I mean by that? Healing is a collaborative effort. It's between you and the practitioner. And if you're going to just be passive about your experience and maybe not even that receptive, like, this may work, this may not. I'm kind of receptive, I'm kind of not. I kind of don't care. Whatever happens, happens, right? That's not going in with a very clear, very certain, very powerful intention. So when I work with a healer, when I work with a coach, I have a very specific thing that I'm trying to accomplish, overcome, let go of, get clarity on, build awareness and understanding around something specific. And I am determined to get to the bottom of it. So the particular thing that we were working on had never really come up in a healing session with us this time. And all the 40 healings prior to this healing, we didn't really talk about this specific thing. But those 40 previous healings laid the groundwork, laid the foundation, cleaned out enough of the energy, negative thoughts, negative emotions, negative programs, calcified ideas, to allow that person to make a huge shift in their thoughts, their emotions, and eventually their actions, right? So at the end of the healing, it was like you could visibly see and viscerally feel that this person had a tremendously powerful shift. But the person has to be open and receptive to having those tremendously powerful shifts. Again, if they just go in with a weak, fuzzy, doubtful intention or no intention at all, the transformation is going to be minimal at best, right? So I was able to, a period of about 2 years ago, in a 2-month period of time, I was able to transform myself more profoundly in those 2 months than almost the previous 10 years. Why? Because I was super, super, super determined to get to where it is that I want to get to. I had constancy of aim and effort and non-laziness. Now, to sustain that for not just 2 months, but for a year, for 10 years, for a lifetime, requires much, 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 much more energy. True or not true? Vegan, Atma Namaste, right? So there's an old saying, or an old, what do they call it? Like, not a proverb. Metaphor, maybe? No, it's not a metaphor. An old parable, an old story. Julie, Atma Namaste, of a young disciple tracks down this guru while he's meditating by a river. And when he finally sees the guru is done meditating, opens his eyes, the guru says, what is it that you're seeking? And the disciple says, I'm seeking enlightenment, and I'm seeking it, I want to become enlightened, I want to become illuminated, I want to become a holy soul. And so the guru puts his hand on the back of the disciple's head and shoves his head under the water in the river. And he's holding the disciple's head fully submerged, can't breathe, his arms are flailing all over the place, and right before he's about to pass out or drown, the guru raises the disciple's head out of the water and says, in the moment with your head under the water, what was the thing you were thinking of most? And the disciple was gasping for breath, and he says, air. Air was the only thing that I wanted. He says, if you can have that level of focus for enlightenment, you will have it fast. You will have it fast. So basically the lesson, the takeaway from that is we spend so much of our life being, Denise, I'm going to say, we spend so much of our life being distracted by movies, by books, by trivial conversations, by just wasting time in general, rather than sitting down, doing our inner work, doing our meditation practice, doing our service, doing our tithing, doing our healing, Amy, Atma Namaste, doing the things that we know are priceless in value and will go with us from the next lifetime to the next lifetime to the next lifetime, called character building. So if we want to make huge strides in our personal and spiritual growth and development, we have to be committed. We have to be committed. The 2 months that I was in Fairfield, Iowa in 2017, I was committed, and I spent hours and hours and hours every single day doing self-healing, working with clients, doing deep, prolonged meditation practices, getting hours of coaching from a person who I deeply admire and respect, and I'm extremely grateful, eternally grateful for this person, right? And all of those things, and I was not distracting myself with trivial conversations, not distracting myself with relationships. Things happened, right? Things came up during that 2-month period, but my main focus was development, letting go of old programs, letting go of old ways of being, letting go of strategies that were no longer serving me, right? And granted, I was very lucky and very privileged to be able to leave where I was living in Denver, rent an Airbnb for 2 months, and have that opportunity while still working with clients distantly, right? It was a great setup that a lot of people aren't afforded to. Most people can't say, yeah, I'm going to just abandon my life for 2 months and go off and do the inner work. But here's the interesting thing about that. In your heart of hearts, practicing self-honesty, if you were given that opportunity, Lucy, I'm a namaste. If you were given that opportunity to go off and do inner work, deep inner work for 2 months or 3 months or 6 months or a year, would you do it? Would you do it? Or would you allow yourself to be distracted? Like, oh, I got all this free time. I can meditate later. I can do my healing later. I can do my inner work later. Let me go on this blog. Let me, pick up this romantic novel. Let me do blah, 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 right? Again, being distracted, because there's an old saying from T. Harv Eker, who founded Peak Potentials, really good personal development and business strategist. He says, how you do anything is how you do everything. Will, I'm going to say, how you do anything is how you do everything. So, I took those 2 months off to do deep inner work to overcome a relationship and learn all these lessons and uncover all these dark things about my personality that I wanted to remove. But the question is, was I doing those things before I took that 2-month sabbatical? And the answer is yes. So when I was living in Denver at the time, I was still doing my meditation practice. I was still doing self-healing. I was still doing all of these things, right, to become a better person. But the difference was I intensified it and I focused. I removed the distractions from my life. But there's people that say, I would love to do that, love to go on a sabbatical for a month, right? You know what happens? They get bored. They get distracted. I know of many successful entrepreneurs who would work 70, 80 hours a week with the goal of, when I reach this level of income or this level of net worth, then I'm going to take time off. And then I'm just going to relax on the beach. And one of the guys actually did that. And after about 2 months, he said that he wanted to kill himself. He was so bored because he asked himself the question, okay, now that I have time and now that I have money, what is something that I want to do that I've always wanted to do but never had the time or the money to do it? So one of his things was, I love movies. So he's like, I'm going to just watch movies. So I think he did it for a week or 2 weeks. It's been about a year since I saw this interview. But for a week or 2 weeks, 8 to 10 hours a day, Maria, I'm going to say 8 to 10 hours a day, he spent watching movies. 8 to 10 hours a day, movie after movie after movie after movie, because he likes movies. And then he also said, he goes, I like the beach. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go on the beach, and I'm going to order cocktails and mojitos and margaritas and Coronas until I'm blue in the face. So he did that for a couple weeks, bored to tears. So after 2 months of doing that experiment, right, bored to tears, wanted to kill himself. And he called up his mentor, and his mentor goes, I thought you would have called earlier to let me know that you were going back to work. So he realized that he loved work. He loved being productive. He loved adding value to society. But now he could do things as not money being the motivator, but as the act of service being the motivator. So the point I'm making is, it's nice to have these ideas in our head that if I had all the time and all the money in the world, I would do the right thing and I would be completely focused on service to others, service to humanity. I would meditate all the time. I'd do yoga all the time. I'd go to the gym all the time. I'd do all these things all the time. But the question is, are you doing that now? Are you doing little bits of those things now? And if you're not, then you need to ask yourself if you're being honest with yourself, right? I've been dedicated to personal and spiritual growth for the past 20 years, relentlessly. I wouldn't consider myself enlightened. I wouldn't consider myself a guru. I wouldn't consider myself a super advanced soul, but I do consider myself to be extremely determined in advancing the development of my soul in this incarnation with what I have. Where I started from and to where I am now, it's a huge chasm of difference. Right? But there's still more growth, more development, more insight, more awareness, more understanding, right? Through that process. You can relate it also to money. You hear about people that you say, if you won the lottery tomorrow, 10 million, $100 million jackpot, what would you do with it? And inevitably, you hear those people say, well, if I had $10 million, if I had $100 million, I would give such and such to this charity, such and such to that charity. I'd help out my friends. I'd help out my family, right? I'd be generous. So here's the question. Are you doing that now at your current level of income? Even if you're making $10,000 a year, are you taking a portion of that money and helping out friends, helping out family members, giving to a feeding program, giving to some nonprofit or charity that you believe in? Because if you're not doing it now, the likelihood of you doing it later is not so likely. It's actually very interesting. 95% of all lottery winners are more broke after 5 years of winning the lottery than they were before they won the lottery. But you know what's interesting about that is most of them were very, very generous people prior to winning the lottery. If you hear their backstories, they were kind people, they were generous people, they were doormats in a lot of cases. People took advantage of them. So guess what? Money is concretized energy, so it magnifies what's inside of you. So if you're a good person and you give somebody a lot of money, it's going to magnify their goodness. If they're a not so good person and you give them a lot of money, it's going to magnify that as well. James, Atma Namaste. Shannon, Atma Namaste. So if these people have the tendency to be very generous and not very receiving, and have a tendency to be taken advantage of by other people, then guess what? You give them $10 million, $50 million, $100 million or more, they're going to spend most of that money. They're going to waste most of that money on things that don't matter, right? What is up? Very true about windfalls. Yes. Correct. So we're kind of covering a lot of different little topics today for this evening, but the ultimate takeaway from today's initial talk is the client that I've been working with for 3 years had an earth-shattering experience today that could have happened earlier, right? If the determination, the receptivity, and even the karma was there for that person, right? We learn the lesson when we learn the lesson. We move forward when we move forward. But to make that process faster, we have to have greater awareness, greater understanding, greater humility to learn the lesson, to move forward. Super, super, super important. Because I remember working with one of my mentors, and I had many, many, many explosions of ahas, like deep soul and life transformative ahas. And you know what was most interesting about that? Because I've known this person for a number of years. As I had those huge ahas and those huge insights and those huge breakthroughs, you know what she said to me? Yeah, I told you that 7 years ago. I'm like, What do you mean you told me that 7 years ago? Yeah, the very insight that you're talking about right now, we talked about that 7 years ago. But guess what? The listening wasn't there. The awareness wasn't there. The understanding wasn't there. Paula, namaste. The experience wasn't there. That's why humility is so important. Because when you humble yourself and you realize what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are, you are more conductive and more receptive to the right energies coming down faster. More gratitude you have, the energy comes down faster than having to go through therapy for 5 years, and then the 5th year of therapy, it clicks. And you're like, oh yeah, I guess I do have anger towards my mom. Even though 5 years earlier in the first week of your therapy sessions, the therapist brought up, do you have any anger issues towards your mom? Right? So and here's the other kicker, just because you have a mental awareness of something does not mean it's been integrated into your emotional body and even into your physical body. It just maybe stays at the level of the throat chakra, which is knowledge. You're like, yeah, I know everything. I know why I'm stuck. But you're still stuck. You're still repeating old patterns. So you have to have understanding. Understanding. Makes sense? Your weakness is chocolate milk. Sometimes the universe gives the same lesson over again until you learn it again. Yeah. Grandmaster Chola Kuksui, and I'm paraphrasing, I don't have the exact quote in front of me, says that when the lesson is learned, when the lesson is learned, it's finished. The karma is finished. So if you need to learn a certain lesson around compassion, you're going to get opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to learn compassion. Here's the interesting thing by the great ones, because they know that there's resistance that we have, lack of humility that we have. So they increase the suffering and increase the pain of the lesson to get you to listen, to get you to wake up. Like, oh, that's the lesson. It's compassion. And then as soon as you get the aha, as soon as you learn the lesson, you're going to notice something really beautiful. Those things, testing that lesson, are done and over with. No more to be seen. How beautiful is that? It's over. You've learned the lesson. Now, there are higher degrees within, say, compassion or forgiveness, but you've learned grade 1, and now you can go on to grade 2, grade 3, grade 4. But you're not stuck with the same lessons at grade 1. So, humility and gratitude are extraordinarily important to move your life forward. Cannot emphasize that enough. And being determined. Being like a pit bull, a hungry pit bull, on a bone to get the answer. Be like, look, there's something I'm not seeing. That's humbling yourself, going, you know what? I don't have all the answers. But I'm going to find the answers no matter what. I'm going to track down that person that has the answer or can give me an ability to find the answer within myself no matter what. Just like the guru putting the disciples' head in the water, right? What is the one thing you thought about? Air. What's the thing one thing you're thinking about? The solution to this problem. That's what happened with the lessons of empathy for me last year. Yeah. So James's experience was empathy, right? So he's not learning the lesson. It increases. The intensity of the lesson increases until you eventually, you have no other choice but to listen. That's what makes awareness so beautiful in our day-to-day experience. When you have greater awareness, you can catch the lesson earlier. So let's say you have to learn the lesson of forgiveness, right? You have to learn the lesson of forgiveness. So here's level 1 of forgiveness. This person makes you angry. And then you have another person who makes you more angry because you didn't learn the lesson to forgive at the first level. You're not learning at the second level. So the third level, somebody really does something that makes you super, super angry and could physically hurt you, emotionally hurt you, mentally hurt you, like hurt you on all levels very intensely. That's the third level of forgiveness. But here's the interesting thing. If you had greater awareness, you would have learned it either at the second level or at the first level, or even before it ever materialized into your physical reality. So that's why awareness is so important. If you go to my website, ChristianRLong.com, the first quote on the home page is from Grandmaster Choa. Without awareness, there's no inner transformation. Awareness is so vital. I cannot emphasize it enough. I built my entire healing practice on that quote. So the 2 months that I spent in my sabbatical in Fairfield, Iowa in 2017 was about awareness. Awareness. I'm doing self-healing and crying. When's the pain going to stop? When's the suffering going to stop? When can I just let go? When can I move forward? Please help me. Please help me. So what are all the components that are happening during those moments? I'm letting go. I'm practicing humility. I'm being super receptive and super conductive. I'm developing awareness. I'm asking questions. I'm reaching out to God. I'm doing all these things in that moment. And guess what? Huge growth in a very, very short period of time. So I could have done that growth in a 5-year period, but instead chose to do it in a 2-month period. Did I eat lots of spuds? No potatoes. I think I might have had a potato. You know the thing is about potatoes is I go to the grocery store and I get excited because I like potatoes. I like sweet potatoes and Idaho potatoes, and I get super excited of like, I'm going to make this potato when I go home. You know what happens? Put the potato in the fridge. I realize it takes 45 to 50 minutes to make the potato in the oven, and I do nothing with it. And then I end up throwing that potato away. You know the other thing I do that with? Avocados. I buy the avocado, I go 100% fat, it's good fat, my body needs fat, my brain needs fat, helps me function, helps me think clear, super important. It's a good idea, but you know what happens? End up throwing the avocado away. So I kind of make a joke that I should just buy the avocado or buy the potato at the grocery store, and as I'm leaving the grocery store, just put it in the garbage right there. It would be way more efficient than like bringing it home, putting it in the fridge, looking at it every day, and then not doing anything with it. Oh, you do that with eggplants? Yeah, eggplants is another one. My ex-wife made the most amazing eggplant parmesan that to this day, I haven't seen anyone make it as good. Not like an eggplant parmesan. It's like an eggplant, something like an eggplant parmesan. Like an eggplant steak parmesan. I don't know. Really, really good. Nobody made it as good as she did. So, anyways, did that make sense to you guys? So I'll leave you with this. Tonight is the full moon meditation with Master Ko. If you go to pranichealing.com, pranichealing.com, and you go to stream, click on the stream button, you will, at 9 o'clock Mountain Time, Denver time, 9 o'clock Denver time, will be the live full moon meditation, the full moon of Gemini, also known as the full moon of goodwill. And I would highly recommend plugging into that and taking advantage of that. Now, for those of you who are looking for healing, reach out to me. Schedule a time. I'm going to be back in Denver tomorrow morning. I'm leaving Salt Lake City tomorrow morning, and then a 1-hour flight, and I'll be back in Denver. So if you need healing, go to ChristianRLong.com. It's my name. It's my website, ChristianRLong.com. Super easy. Click on it. Schedule a time that works for both of us. And we do a distant healing and coaching, one-on-one, on Skype, on Zoom, on FaceTime, whatever works for you. Easy, right? All right, guys. So that's it. This is Christian Long, Life Enhancement Consulting, giving you a big and beautiful shout out and wishing you an amazing, phenomenal Monday night, week, and life. And I look forward to connecting with you soon. Atma, namaste. Bye-bye.